Yes, welcome in to Boston has entered the chat. Daily show here on Nesson's YouTube, Spotify, Twitch, Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you watch, make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. I'm George Balekji. Joining me from the woods of Wisconsin is Khalin Kapoor. Khalin, what town of Wisco are you in today, my friend?
George, Wisconsin Rapids is the place of choice for me today. I'm going all over the state, all over central Wisconsin, but got to make time to chat with you here. Boston has entered the chat. Let's get it going.
Make sure you could call in, leave a voicemail, 617-790-0928. Leave a voicemail on any topic. Or if you want to email us, right on in the chat at Nesson.com. Simple as that. Celtics, Patriots, life, whatever you want to talk, send them in. We'll answer them for you. Now, I spent 2 years in Wisconsin, so I was very familiar with the area, very familiar with the drinks. Colin, this is the first time I'm doing a show with you. I have to ask, over under deleted 20 spotted cows in your first few weeks out there in Wisconsin?
You know what, George? I'm going to go under because I found a different drink of choice here in Wisconsin. That, of course, is the brandy old fashioned.
Nice.
Not really a big spotted cow guy. I've had a couple here and there at a couple of games, but the brandy old fashioned is where I'm going to sign my name to here in Wisconsin. I might have to say this, put my name to it right now. It might be better than the ones I can get over in Boston.
That's a definitive. Yeah, my first spotted cow I had was on the Union Terrace in Madison right when I first moved out there. Weather was great. Sun was setting on Lake Mendota. Had a spotted cow. It's awesome. But I really can't have more than like two in a setting. It's one of those types of beers. But for the old fashions, I would go brandy sour. And you're right. And I learned quickly when I moved to Boston, I would say old fashioned brandy sour. The bartender would stare at me blankly for 10 seconds.
Yeah, like you have a third eye or something.
Give me an old fashioned, whatever style you do it. So enjoy them while you're in Wisconsin. Now, as we always start the program, we get something off our chest. For me, I was absent from the first episode of the week, but I want to hit on the Caitlin Clark discussion that's going on across the WNBA, going across all of sports right now, and has taken a weird evolution as the more it's being discussed. But to me, it all starts with one thing. Caitlin Clark is coming into this league with a bigger spotlight than anyone else in WNBA history in recent memory. And that's because of all she accomplished in college, being the number one draft pick, but you have these professionals that have been in this league for so long, busting their ass, barely getting paid, but still being some of the women that have built up this league to what it is today, which is highly competitive, highly entertaining, with a high level of basketball being played, and all the attention is still going to Caitlin Clark. So is she being targeted? Is she getting more attention than anyone else on the floor? Yes, and for the reasons being number one overall pick, best player on the opposing team, but also everything she comes into this game with right now, because you have a league of grown women that are just hearing about this young lady all the time. Now, Clark is phenomenal. She's top 20 in scoring in the league by points per game average. She's the best player on a bad Indiana Fever team. And physically, she's not up to par with some of the athletes she's getting matched up with. So that's where the hard hits, the hard fouls, the physical play, the demand of it is coming in, and that's how it's affecting her. Now, what Kennedy Carter did at the Chicago Sky, to me, that's out of bounds on this one. It was a dirty foul, it was a dirty play. But keep in mind, Caitlin Clark turned to her the play before that on a bucket by the Fever and chirped at her. And Caitlin Clark has done that since her days at Iowa, since her days in college basketball. Getting it done, being the best player on the floor, the best player in college basketball on the planet, and talking her talk. She's highly competitive. She'll talk her ish to herself as well. But everything she's done, she's never backed away from the biggest challenge on the floor. And in that instance, it's Kennedy Carter. Now, for the other end, waiting for an inbound, it's away from the ball. This foul is just out of bounds altogether to go and throw the shoulder. She's bigger, more physical. Is it dirty? Yes. Is it the end of the world? No. Is Kennedy Carter a good role player on the Sky that's getting more attention than she would otherwise because it was Caitlin Clark? Yes. Are there now more eyeballs on the league because of her and this rookie class that has come in? Yes. But this still has been a highly competitive league with a lot of physical play before Caitlin Clark came in, and will continue to be so after Clark is years into this league and done playing with it as well. It's still building up. There's more attention being played on this league now more than ever. So that's why more people are seeing these fouls and seeing what's happening to her and the treatment she's getting, which is fair. She's a rookie. She's a number one overall pick. There's a hazing she's getting from across the league and the extra attention. When they hear all about number 22 for the Indiana Fever constantly in the scouting reports, in the media write-ups, the questions they're getting in their presser, yeah, that'll amp up the amount of attention and aggression they'll have with her, and that's fine. Caitlin Clark doesn't care. She literally said, it is what it is. I'm at the point where I accept it. Don't retaliate. I know I'll take a couple tough shots every game. Meanwhile, you have Kennedy Clark right at her presser after the game saying, I'm not answering any Caitlin Clark questions. I'm not going to get into it. Denying that Caitlin said anything to her and denying that she said anything to Clark herself before her head coach cuts it off. But then hopped on Threads and replied to a post saying she doesn't do anything more than shoot threes. So won't address the play and what went down and her opinion on Caitlin Clark at a presser, but will address it on social media after. But that's Kennedy Clark to this one. Are we seeing more attention paid to Caitlin Clark? And is she getting tougher play than other rookies across the league and other players on the Fever? Yes, that's what's going to happen. But it'll take a little while before she acclimates to the rest of the league, bulks up, gets physically stronger, and also just figures out life in pro ball. But Caitlin Clark is the reason why WNBA games are now being played in NBA arenas, are selling out. Why the NCAA championship game got almost 20 million viewers and why the draft got 2.5. She's bringing more attention, putting this on a bigger platform, and reasons why shows like myself and here on Boston is Enter the Chat is talking about the WNBA ad nauseum in a great way. We'll keep talking about it because it's great athletes, it's great play. The college basketball, the level of talent there is phenomenal as well. She props up this league and props up this sport, is bringing new fans into it that might be shocked at that play and go, what's going on there? That's how they've been playing, and that's fine. But you can address and accept and admit what Kennedy Clark did was dirty. It wasn't that egregious, though. Physical play beyond the whistle, that happens. Happens in the NBA, but say that's part of the WNBA and also address that it's happening to Caitlin Clark as well. As far as the name calling we've seen from other media outlets and people in particular, that's where it gets weird. And as far as now people trying to go out and, what's the word I'm looking for? Say like they're a white knight in this sense of, no one talks about it more than this. It hasn't been the case. She's taken this league and this sport to a new level, and she has propped it up, and she continues to carry it. And notice herself, she doesn't have any problem with the hard fouls. If she doesn't, you shouldn't. Should the Indiana Fever get players to back her up and be an enforcer? For sure. But overall, this is part of the game. It's been part of the WNBA. It will continue to be so. Caitlin Clark will get this extra aggression and attention that's being paid to her, and it won't stop anytime soon. But at the same time, it's how they play, and that's fine. Caitlin Clark's fine with it. She's still scoring well. She's still trying to fight for wins with this bad Fever team where they really have just two good players. But life will go on. Just there's more eyeballs on it now is everything we're noticing. Colin, what did you think of it?
I think this whole situation, there's the swirling media storm that happened after, and that's something you mentioned, George, and the problems lie there when you have guys like Pat McAfee saying the things that he said today. I'm not going to repeat it, but what he said was, in a sense, there's this whole rookie class, but they don't matter. Clark is the only one that matters. Essentially, that boils down to what he said. The language he used was inexcusable. It was disgusting. That's neither here nor there. But that's wrong. That is not even remotely the case. Clark is great. She's the face of the rookie class. You can argue she's the face of the WNBA right now. But Angel Reese is setting records over in Chicago, right? There is not just Clark in this rookie class, but that's the media circus that will contribute to this treatment of Caitlin Clark right now. When McAfee goes on and talks only about Clark as the only person in this league, in this rookie class that matters, someone like Kennedy Carter is going to be like, I am tired of hearing about Clark. Let me go in and make this my business, right? When that happens, when these bad actors in the space get a hold of this narrative, then we see the problems start to happen. And I have no problem with calling Pat McAfee a bad actor in this space right now, because that's absolutely the part that he played today in his show this afternoon, or I should say yesterday afternoon. So look, all of this all-encompassing, I have no problem with the beef. I have no problem with the rivalry. That's the kind of thing that makes sports entertaining, makes sports fun. But I think the key thing here is Clark's response was keep it to the court. I'm going to show them. And look, the Fever won this game by 1 point. Right? That's the retribution that you want. You don't want more retribution physically. If it's an enforcer that comes in and knocks Kennedy Carter down, is that okay? I suppose. Is that the right way to go about the situation? Probably not. The right way to do it is what Caitlin Clark did, is say, hey, I'm gonna show you with my play, and I'm gonna beat you where it matters, and where it matters is getting that win in the win column. So overall here, I have no problem with the rivalry. I have a problem with the way that Kennedy Carter went about the situation. But look, you can kind of empathize with this situation, right? A player that's been in the WNBA for a few years now, that has kind of tried to build up her point of view and everything that she's done. And then she sees Caitlin Clark come in, and every single outlet, every single person is talking about just her. There's good reason for that, but I can see where she's coming from. But when you get to the flagrant aspect of this, when you get to the She doesn't bring anything outside of shooting 3-pointers, which, by the way, blatantly incorrect, not even remotely true. She's a great passer, she's a great creator, and she's brought a lot of notoriety to the sport, to the league that Carter plays in. Then we have a bit of a problem, and I think the treatment overall of Caitlin Clark is that, and we're kind of contributing to this a little bit, is that she can't really do any wrong because she is this quote-unquote savior of this sport. That's not necessarily true. Of course, in this situation, I don't think Clark was in the wrong at all, because I think her response was perfectly okay, that I'm going to keep this to what's on the court. I'm going to win where it matters. I'm going to win with my play. But I also think when you think about the media circus that's coming in from all angles, there is a bit of a point of view here for these legacy WNBA players that's like, hey, we've been doing this for years, and someone comes in, yes, she's a legendary talent coming in from the NCAA, but it's not necessarily something that we haven't been working and fighting and scratching towards for such a long time in this league.
Yeah, Sabrina Ionescu out of Oregon was phenomenal in college basketball, breaking records like Caitlin Clark did before Caitlin Clark became herself, especially over the last 2 years at Iowa. And as a rookie for the New York Liberty, she wasn't getting the extra attention like Ionescu is. Yeah, sure, there's a defensive attention, the face guarding, the double teams, fly paper defense. Do your all to stop her, because if you do that, you will stop the Indiana Fever. But Sabrina Ionescu wasn't seeing the hard fouls or the going out of the way to physically play her and, probably play dirty against her as well. That's the difference between her and Caitlin Clark. But also keep in mind, you pointed out this rookie class overall, Cameron Brink, Rakia Jackson, both of them going to the Sparks. They're selling out NBA arenas because of them too, and how popular they are. Obviously with Angel Reese being in the Chicago Sky as well. And you think of Aaliyah Edwards going to the Washington Mystics. This is a star-studded WNBA rookie class. Overall, they're selling out arenas, moving to bigger arenas because of the amount of popularity they have, and it's great for the league, where the WNBA is passing the NHL in ratings, popularity, and selling out arenas. Less teams, but they're still getting the job done with less than that. It's this entire rookie class propping it up, but I understand where the vets come from to have a problem what they have. All right, so that was one of the most trending topics over the weekend. Wanted to get that off my chest as we always start the chat here. But I don't know, Colin, if you saw this. Murky waters now for the San Diego Padres, as infielder Tucupita Marcano is facing a potential lifetime ban for betting on baseball. Now, he was betting on baseball while injured, betting on the Padres games. Torn ACL, was not playing. But this is amazing because Major League Baseball's rule is really simple. Bet with a legal sports maker. Don't bet on any diamond sports and you're fine. So in the same year, they have Ippei Muzahara, who is allegedly stealing money from Shohei Ohtani and betting through an illegal bookmaker, but not betting on baseball or softball. The same time that's happening, this comes out. Of course, this is right after Jonte Porter got the ban, lifetime ban from the NBA himself, for betting through DraftKings egregiously on unders on all of his props. But you think about this with Marcano for the San Diego Padres. This is the first player to be betting on baseball while in the league, really, since Pete Rose did it way back in the day. And you know the black eye, the Major League Baseball, and how sensitive they are with betting. This is just so interesting because he is a nobody, but he's now somebody in Major League Baseball's eye because he's, impeding on the integrity of the league.
And that's what you just said is the key thing of this entire story, George, is that Marcano is never and will never be a Pete Rose before the betting scandal, right? I mean, obviously, that whole thing back with Pete Rose, he was the guy. He was Pete Rose, and then all of this happened. Marcano, some pedigree, I remember kind of when he was coming up, but nothing amazing, nothing world-beating. And then we see this during the injury in the ACL, and it's like, okay, I think the MLB's rules you mentioned is very simple, but I do think now that the Shohei Ohtani thing has happened, there's more of a spotlight on this type of conduct. And also MLB, since Pete Rose, you mentioned the black eye in the league, whatever it is, like they're cracking down on this stuff. And I think they should. That's the rule. And if that rule is, if there's an infraction there should be consequences to it. So overall, I mean, there's not too much, surprising here based on the potential ruling or whatever ruling is going to be. And I think the one thing that, gives me a little bit of pause, and not necessarily on the ruling, but just from the personal side of things, is like this guy, I mean, he was injured. He was away from the team and he was away from the sport. And for people, I've spoken to people with addictions to gambling before for other stories. And this is something that's really, really serious. And you can understand, you can kind of empathize with what a player that has been trying to be in the MLB for so long, they suffer a devastating injury, and maybe it's like they want to feel connected to the sport and feel the stakes in that sport again. Maybe that's what it is. It might not be, of course, if we're giving him the benefit of the doubt here. But like that's where I feel a little bit of personally towards this, just because of the addiction aspect of gambling. We've seen it a lot before, not even for athletes, but everyone, right? So this is something that is a problem. So I think when I read this story, I was like, oh, like, yeah, he broke the rules. There should be consequences here. But you think a little bit deeper about it, and you're like, wow, like there's probably some personal struggle and strife going on along the way.
Maybe. I don't know if it's a addiction to gambling thing. It very well could be. I wouldn't be surprised to do something this dumb. Like their rule is simple. You can bet. Don't bet on Major League Baseball.
Sure.
I think with Marcano, it's a guy laying around, torn ACL, away from the game.
Yeah.
He knows his team, the Padres, better than anyone. So I think it's familiarity of him going, yeah, I'm going to take the Padres on the run line. I don't know the bets he placed. I don't know where he went. But I think it could be boiled down to that as well. But I think when Major League Baseball spells it out so simply, do not bet on diamond sports. You can't bet on college softball. Do not bet on diamond sports, but you can bet anywhere else as long as it's legal. I think it's a case of Marcano being a moron. And you know what? Major League Baseball is going to ban him for life and not really care. Now, if this was someone like a Shohei Ohtani,
that's the key
like
thing.
A Mike Trout, if this was a top 5 player in the league, and O'Neal Cruz, someone that's up and coming, this would be a whole different story. Now, it could be he's addicted to gambling. He's dealing with things and wants to be connected to the team. I wouldn't deny that. But I think it's a guy just sitting there simply, like we saw with the Keyshawn Boutte. Yeah, I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to bet on my team. I'm going to bet on the guys I know. I think about it. I bet on the Patriots and the Celtics more than any NBA or NFL team because I watch them and I follow them every single day. Very well could have been the same for him. Hey, growing up, you ever watch American Gladiators, Colin?
You know what, George? I haven't. I haven't watched American Gladiators. I wasn't too familiar with it, actually, until what we're about to talk about.
So it ran from 89 to 96. I caught reruns growing up.
A little bit before my time.
I was born in 94, before my time too. I definitely wasn't watching it when I was 2 years old. But for me, this was homesick during the summer or homesick from school during the school year, just waking up on a summer day. American Gladiator episodes on reruns. And if you don't know what it is, imagine pros versus Joes, but instead they went around the country and recruited the biggest juice head bodybuilders from around the world. And then they would take someone that's normal, like you or me, and we would see, not necessarily if we could beat them one-on-one, but in a gladiator type setting. Now, yeah, it could be fighting. There's one where you're just trying to run by them, hide behind boulders, and they have a giant tennis ball gun. They're trying to shoot you, but they're thinking of bringing it back. And I'm not going to lie, I'm going to tune in because why not? Because why not other mindless television we have? If it's on a streaming service too, sure. If I could turn this on, watch, it'll have my attention probably 5 or 10 minutes, and then it'll fade away from me. But this is a play on nostalgia. I don't know if it'll work or not, but there are the rumblings that it's going to be coming back.
Yeah, George, I mean, it's Amazon Prime Video. They can do whatever they want. I think the one thing I was not really surprised by, but I was kind of struck by when I was doing a little bit more research on this is what's trending. I was seeing what people were saying on social media, and a lot of the same kind of narratives that you just brought up, that the nostalgia aspect of this, that people are really excited for this being rebooted. I don't know if I personally am going to be hooked into this show, but hey, if it's on Prime Video, and I got nothing to do with it, I might sit around and toss it on. It is obviously playing off of the greatest narrative in history, which is David versus Goliath. So if it is compelling content, which I'm hoping it is, because we don't need any more uncompelling content in the media sphere today. So if it is good, I'll give it a try. But I think the fun thing about it is that people are very, very excited for it. We see across social media. That's why we're talking about it right now, because people are excited. So this is pretty cool. Obviously, in a perfect world, for me, I would love new and original ideas being put out there into the sphere. That's not really the world we live in anymore. So in the world of sequels and reboots and prequels and pre-roots, whatever it is, that's kind of what we're going to get. It's going to be a reboot of an old show, but people are excited, and that's what makes money in this business is those nostalgia things and things that companies know are going to have an established audience.
Yeah, casting website's already up, and some of the questions, how competitive are you? Followed up by, if you are a gambler, tell us the biggest risk you've ever taken. Ridiculous.
Wow.
What do people assume about you? List prior names and aliases. Most difficult athletic feat you've done, and why are you applying? And this is my favorite one. They said, name the nicknames, aliases. There's been names in the past: Nitro, Thor, Malibu, Hawk. So this has me thinking, and Cullen, we'll come up with this on a later episode. We got to figure out what our American Gladiator names will be. And you bet I will be submitting for that. If I get it going, I can do the challenge. Why not? I'll see how long I can last. All right, so the biggest battle we'll see, and you said it's David versus Goliath. It feels that way around Boston. I don't know if it's nationally, but the NBA Finals matchup between the Mavericks and the Celtics. Yeah. Celtics blew past everyone in the East, only lost 2 games through the first 3 rounds, and have been sitting tight, just recovering, getting ready to play the Mavericks. Meanwhile, the Mavs have coming out of the much more battle-tested, much deeper, much more talented West. And now it's a wonder where across the national media, it sounds like people are really liking the Mavericks. If you look in Vegas, the Celtics are the favorites. But my favorite part is the NBA Finals MVP odds. If you look, and this is via FanDuel, the top 10, number 1, the favorite is Jayson Tatum minus 120. Luka Doncic 2-1. Jaylen Brown 6-1 to win Finals MVP. Kyrie Irving 20-1. So you see that line written right across after JB at plus 600. Then you have Derek White 36-1. Kristaps Porzingis all the way with, if you bet on Derek Jones Jr., Daniel Gafford, or PJ Washington, all for the Mavs, 290-1. So $1 pays you $290. 10 pays you $2,900. You do the math from there. But out of these, who do you think, and I'm talking reality, you don't have to go betting-wise, but who do you think has the best chance to win Finals MVP between the Celtics and the Mavericks, Colin?
My pick actually is both value-based and who I actually think is going to win. I think Jaylen Brown's going to get this one for the Celtics. Obviously, my pick is them winning the NBA Finals. And I think, look, obviously, if the Celtics win and Jayson Tatum's stats and Jaylen Brown's stats are vaguely comparable, it's probably going to go to Tatum. That's just the way that the odds are looking, and that's the way kind of the attention and the media frenzy is kind of going about this NBA Finals. However, I think the way that Jaylen Brown played against the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals is projectable against the Mavericks. I think he's going to lead the team in shooting again in terms of the amount of shots taken and the percentages that he's been putting up there, over 50% in that series. And I also think, look, Jayson Tatum obviously contributes a lot more off the ball than a guy like Jaylen Brown does. Brown has gotten better in that regard, but I also think that Porzingis being in the mix is going to help out Jaylen Brown a lot more. If we're looking at value here, if I were a betting man, I like the value at plus 600 for Brown than I do for Jayson Tatum at the top of this odds list. So overall, and also I do kind of, if I were to think that the Mavs were going to win this one, I do like Kyrie Irving's line there to be a little bit of a dark horse, considering the just discrepancy between him and Luka, because realistically speaking, if the Mavs win, it's one of those 2 guys and no one else. So overall, I'd say my actual pick is Jaylen Brown. And I think the best value here on this list, given the chances they have to win, in my opinion, is Brown as well.
Yeah, I understand the Jaylen Brown, because what it comes to me too is who's guarding Jayson Tatum, because he's always going to draw the opposing team's best defender. We saw it in the first round against the Heat, where Caleb Martin was on Jayson Tatum. So it was Tyler Hero on Jaylen Brown. And the Celtics are smart. They've been here before. They hunt for matchups. They look for the weakest defender, especially matched up with one of their best players. So why not attack that? And if it was the Cavaliers, hunting Darius Garland. The Pacers, it was Nesmith on Tatum, JB, and the offense will run through him, especially when Jayson Tatum's double-teamed as much as he is. Sure. But still, this was the Eastern Conference Finals where Jayson Tatum averaged 30, 10, and 6 on 46% shooting, while Jaylen Brown was 29, 5, and 3. Now, Jaylen Brown had the game 1 shot, had the 40-point performance. So he had those 2 big moments, while Jayson Tatum really woke up in the last 2 games and after going to sweep. But Jaylen Brown had that big shot in game 1, and maybe that swung how that series went. Maybe it would have went 6 instead of being a sweep, just because of the momentum the Pacers had. I was fine with Jaylen Brown having it, but Jayson Tatum, this whole team flows and runs through him.
Yeah.
So minus 120, not the worst number if you expect him to get it. But yeah, you want to play with value on this. Now, taking the value out of it, for me, I would go with Luka Doncic if you love the Mavs. But I understand what you're saying of going with Jaylen Brown if you like the Celtics. If the Mavericks win it, it will be on the back of Luka Doncic, because he does everything for this team.
Yeah.
And the defensive matchup he'll be, who gets him? Is it Drew Holiday or Derek White? Is it Jaylen Brown or Jayson Tatum on Luka? It'll probably be Jaylen and Drew, mainly on Luka Doncic, and then Derek White and Drew, mainly on Kyrie, all about switches and matchups. But they're not going to give their toughest defensive test to Jayson Tatum, but the size is there. Go back to when Luka Doncic had trouble against Oklahoma City Thunder, and it took him a couple games to find his footing and really find his flow. But that was Luka Doncic, who's one of the best defenders in the NBA, one of the strongest guys in the NBA. bigger than Drew Holiday, but defensive skill set, how good their footwork is, physicality and strength, Drew Holiday is on par with Dort. That's why I think we'll see that matchup on Luka. That could take a few games for him to get acclimated to and get used to. But if you think the Mavericks are going to win this, it's going to be because of Doncic. He's the guy late in the game that takes the shots. Last 5 minutes, you give it to him, you're going to be okay. He showed it throughout that series against the Timberwolves, where Minnesota led the final 5 minutes of every game except for Game 5. But Doncic stepped up time and time again to take over, make the big plays, make the big passes, and set his guys up for success. Also with that, the bread and butter of their offense is that pick and roll, where you have someone like Luka who is so patient to make a play, make a pass, make a shot. He'll wait to the last minute, but get Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, get PJ Washington all involved. I understand what Kyrie Irving brings to the table, but I think defensively, and especially how much he'll be targeted, that'll take out of him offensively. So if you like the Celtics in this one, you look at Jayson Tatum, I get it. But to your point, Colin, and I agree, I don't hate that Jaylen Brown play and picking him to win Finals MVP either, because it could be the same thing we've seen throughout these playoffs. Jayson Tatum pulls Derrick Jones Jr. to be defending him. Okay, that's fine. Who's in front of JB? Play through him. And as great of shooting he's been all throughout this postseason, Brown has shown he can make plays both ends of the floor, taking on the opposing team's best player defensively, while also being someone that is a playmaker as well, and where his game has taken such a big leap. That game-winning shot and a game-sealing shot by Derek White against the Pacers in Game 3, set up by a block on Jaylen Brown on the defensive end of the floor. Then attack into the rim, finding Derek White in the corner, hit the shot, they win 105-102. Very well, the moments like that can happen, and Brown gets it done on both ends of the floor. I wouldn't be surprised if he walks away with Finals MVP. No matter what, though, I see how these finals go. The Celtics go as far as Tatum takes them. The Mavericks go as far as Luka takes them. We also got to say, though, Kristaps Porzingis, biggest question mark in all of this. How long does it take for him to refine his shot, get that rust off of him? Because he's playing his first game almost 5.5 to 6 weeks. But he's so important, both ends of the floor, what the Celtics do. Defensively protecting the rim, but offensively drawing the bigs out, spacing the floor. Right. Because don't forget, when Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum had their success against Indiana, it was all about attacking the paint, getting in around the rim, because they didn't have the size to match up with him. But if you have Kristaps Porzingis and he can draw the Livelies and the Gaffords out of the paint, then it's just pinning their ear backs and going to the rim. And that plays the same for Drew Holiday and Derek White. Now, Kristaps Porzingis won't win Finals MVP being a decoy, but if he's even a semblance of what he was during the regular season, where he creates for the offense, turns around, shoots over smaller defenders, and gets it done from three while also being a rim protector and a great defender for them on the defensive end of the floor as well, then Porzingis could really be the darkest horse of them all to win Finals MVP. But to me, it's how it draws up, it's how the attention will go, and it's how many opportunities they'll get. To me, it's Jaylen Brown or Jayson Tatum for the Celtics. But for the Mavs, to me, it's really all about one guy, and it's all about Luka Doncic.
Absolutely. And on the Porzingis side of things, right, there's obviously going to be adjustments depending on the Mavs side, depending on what Porzingis brings to the table in game one. And we were talking about this yesterday on Boston Has Entered the Chat, George, about what Porzingis can bring if he is going to be ready. Honestly, we don't exactly know where that rust aspect's going to go in, where the injury aspect's going to go. And I have to assume he was so close in each of those Indiana Pacers games. The reporting was if there was a game 5 or 6, he should be back for those. That's a whole week removed from that at this point for the Celtics. So Porzingis is going to throw a monkey wrench into the whole operation for the Mavs, and he should open up all sorts of things. I think his biggest impact may not necessarily be putting up MVP caliber numbers in this NBA Finals, but it's going to be opening things up for the entire 5 for the Celtics, giving more room for Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum to operate, giving it an entire new aspect of things to worry about defensively for the Mavs, and also whatever Porzingis can offer on the other side of the ball as well. So that's going to be big. I'll toss another name in there just because of his contributions in the Eastern Conference Finals. Drew Holiday, the only guy that's been here before that's actually won something. Every single thing that he's been doing, both defensively in terms of shutting down, and also when he comes in there and he starts creating offensively and starts taking that 3 ball and starts producing and passing, all of that has been really, really beneficial for Boston. And I think having someone who has the ability to win an NBA Finals, who has done that before, which of course has been the main kind of criticism of these Celtics teams is, oh, they just haven't done it. They don't have the will to do it. But Drew Holiday has had the will to do it before. There's going to be another aspect for the Celtics. I think he brings so much. And we talked about this before the season when Porzingis and Holiday came in, that Holiday brings in that playoff pedigree. And now this is our chance to see that actually happen in the finals.
Yeah, it's tough. Drew Holiday, though, I like that call. I thought he should have gotten votes for Eastern Conference Finals MVP. I would not have hated it.
Absolutely agree.
But this is a guy that's only shooting 10 times a game.
Exactly.
Can he go up and have a game or two he goes off? But the Celtics team is so deep, so balanced. They're not going to go away from what has worked for them to get to this point. Best regular season team by far. Only 2 losses through this postseason. But I agree. We'll see the reports come out after the season. Postseason, off-season reports with Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum talking, and know who's going to be the unsung hero, and they're going to say that was really the MVP. I like your idea there. It's going to be Khalin. It's going to be Drew Holiday. But actually winning it was Khalin Kapoor. He's the finals MVP. He's the real MVP of the Celtics. It will be
I'll
Drew
be there.
Holiday,
so, it could
right?
be me.
All the praise coming out about him, but actually winning the award. I agree with you. He's going to make MVP plays. He's going to be crucial for this team's success, especially defensively, taking on a Doncic or a Kyrie, but it's going to go to one of their big dogs. Hey, check out the latest episode of Extra Time wherever you get your podcast. Remember, we're up on Spotify now, so you don't only have to watch, but you can listen along while you drive. Sophia Jurkovic and Jemai Webster, they go through the hazards of the job, being rinkside or pre-post for the Bruins, or for Jemai, being sidelines for the Red Sox in the broadcast. Especially, he breaks down a nice story of taking a Rafael Devers foul ball off the body. You'll want to check that out. Again, that's Extra Time wherever you get your podcast. Hey, Colin, Stanley Cup Final is set. It broke my heart to see the Panthers do to my Rangers what they did to Boston's Bruins. And given, again, I say that I was rooting for the Bruins in the series, so relax there before you get ahead of yourself. But it was, ironic. It was bittersweet. It was poetic, where I'm watching that Rangers Game 6 with my friends. And a lot of them Rangers fans, and they go, I don't get it. What happened to us? And I go, this is what Florida does.
Yep.
They just, pucks in deep, forecheck, physical the hell out of you. Don't let you shoot. Don't let you play comfortable. Don't have any studs, but have 4 deep lines. And they basically just take you out of your game and they beat you, even when your goalie only allows 2 goals. Jeremy Swayman, Igor Shesterkin, you guys deserve better. I know you do. But with this set, it's the Panthers against the Edmonton Oilers. So you have to drag it out, play vicious, play dirty, beat the hell out of you against the speed of the West and the most dominant player in the league. Leaps and bounds, most dominant player in all pro sports when you put into the sport that he plays, Connor McDavid. Who do you like in this one now that you're thinking about how this finals matches up for the Stanley Cup Final between the Oilers and the Panthers?
First things first, George, I got to give myself a pat on the back because this was my prediction at the beginning of the playoffs. It was Panthers and Oilers. I was talking to Travis Thomas about that around, a month and a half ago.
Trav went with that too when we were seeing both conference finals done. I was opposite.
Exactly.
Rangers Stars. You guys nailed it.
Yeah, and look, one thing I want to say, and my pick is the Panthers. I think they're going to win this one in 6 games. But you said something interesting, and I think this is something that a lot of people are overwriting because it's against McDavid, because it's against Draisaitl. You said the Panthers do not have any studs. I disagree because we've seen what Matthew Tkachuk has done. Maybe he's not scoring as much, but also Alexander Barkov, a stud player, is one that does his job exceptionally well. And Alexander Barkov, who did he limit? Pasta to basically nothing. Panarin to basically nothing. Kucherov to basically nothing. This is going to be his time to do that, to be the suffocating defender a two-way forward can be against Draisaitl and against Connor McDavid. Now, this is the best matchup I think possibly could happen in these Stanley Cup Finals because of 2 things. It's power versus power on the offensive side for the Oilers and the defensive side for the Panthers. Honestly, they should be called the Florida Pythons because what they do, you said it, is they suffocate. They do not let anything happen. When they get a lead, they do not give up that lead. And yes, they don't have to score multiple goals per game. A lot of their scoring woes, quote unquote, is because they played Swayman, the best goalie in these playoffs, and Shesterkin, the second best goalie in these playoffs, both of which saved over 13 goals above expected throughout their playoff runs. And guess who beat them? The Panthers did, by playing their style of hockey. Yes, McDavid is generational. Yes, Draisaitl is the perfect foil to him. However, I just don't think on the scoring side that Draisaitl and McDavid can overcome what the Panthers are going to throw at them. But also on the goaltending side, I do not see Stuart Skinner as the guy that can take that next leap in a Stanley Cup final. He did it against the Stars, yes. I agree. He played out of his mind against the deepest team in the NHL, which is the Dallas Stars. I don't think he can do that against what the Panthers are going to throw at him and against what the Panthers are going to throw at the Oilers. I think my pick is Panthers in 6. It's going to be an incredibly entertaining series because these two teams are going to clash in different ways. I really, really am excited for what we're going to see, and I think the Panthers finally get this one done and they finish the job that they started last season.
You're right. I said no studs. They do. I mean, their first line is all 70-plus point scorers. Obviously, they have Matthew Tkachuk, 88 points this season, anchoring their second line. And Anton Lundell, just a killer against the Bruins, and then led to the game-winning goal, the series-clinching goal on that Tarasenko goal. Again, Tarasenko against his old team in the Rangers. He was with them long. What got me... And here's the thing. Sergei Bobrovsky, respect to you, man. You're not great, but you're good enough, and your team knows how to play into your strengths. You're a two-time Vezina winner. I'm not taking that away. But you see these teams go low and low and low on Bob. Then the one goal Artemi Panarin has finally goes top shelf on Bobrovsky and breaks through. It's like, that's what all you have to do. Go high. He lets up these softies. But it is so impressive for the Panthers to take Sergei Bobrovsky back to the Stanley Cup Finals. For him to get there, but for them to get back and take Sergei Bobrovsky with them. Because to me, I chalked it up. Ottinger, Shesterkin, give me the better goalies in both conference finals.
Sure.
The Panthers just know, like you said, they smother you, they choke you out, they beat the hell out of you, and they don't let you challenge their guy. They don't let you get really any shots off, and they keep the pressure on your end of the ice, cause chaos, and they love winning 2-1. I just can't believe in Stuart Skinner in this at all. The Oilers, if they had a goalie, I'd like them. I just don't see Skinner doing it again, especially, right? Just wasting away Connor McDavid, wasting away McJesus. But hey, a quick one from you. I got to ask you this one, Colin. If Sergei Bobrovsky wins a Stanley Cup, is he a Hall of Famer? 2 Vezinas.
Oof. I was poring over the stats and seeing the body of work that he's put up. I'd say he gets a lot closer, and honestly, definitively, I'd say yes. I think for this specific team, Bobrovsky's life is made a little bit easier, like you've been saying. But that's not to take away the insane saves that he's made. And when there are defensive breakdowns, look, he's played against Panarin on the best offense in the NHL. That was the New York Rangers, the best special teams in the NHL, both shorthanded and on the power play. Bobrovsky did his job. Yes, he gave up that top shelf goal to Panarin. Panarin's one of the best goal scorers of the NHL this past year. You can't really say, oh, that's like a softie, because it is Panarin, right?
He was one of the best goal scorers the last 8 games leading into that.
That is true, but that's the Barkov effect, right? Yeah. That is what Alexander Barkov brings to the table, and I am so interested. I am incredibly excited to see what Barkov can do against the best NHL player of the past 8 years in Connor McDavid. This matchup, Barkov versus McDavid, and then Matty Tkachuk against anyone that gets within 3 feet of him, and Sam Bennett against anyone that gets within 3 feet of him, is going to be really, really intriguing. That's why I'm so excited. This is going to be a physical versus finesse style of hockey. But the Oilers, they can bring some force too. I mean, we talk about Evander Kane and Zach Hyman, Darnell Nurse, the same kind of thing. This is going to be one of those Stanley Cups that you look back on and you're like, we're seeing the best player at the top of his game right now in McDavid, and one of the best offenses that he's been a part of, with Zach Hyman being thrown into the mix, who scored 50-plus goals in the regular season, against a team in the Panthers that doesn't necessarily win that way, but they get the job done nonetheless, and that's why it's going to be really, really fun. I agree with you, though. In the playoffs, so often it comes down to goaltending, and yes, Stuart Skinner got there. He was great in the final 3 games against the Stars. He gave up 2 or less goals in each. But holistically in these playoffs, still a sub-900 save percentage, George. Still a goal against average above 2.5. And that's obviously been lowered from last year when the Oilers carried him through 12 games and he had a 3.67 goals allowed average. But this is a little bit different. However, Bobrovsky has the body of work. He has the playoff experience. He has the cup final experience that Stuart Skinner just doesn't have. I think when it comes down to it, when it comes down to who is going to make the save and who will not make that save, Bobrovsky will and Skinner won't. And I think the Panthers are going to make it just hard enough for the Oilers offense to get this one done and seal the deal.
Shout out to the old markets, the small markets in the NHL, Edmonton and Florida. You won't get the masses tuning in Like, the casual New York Rangers fans won't, but the hardcore fans are going to love this. Either Canada gets its first cup in 30 plus years, or the Florida Panthers finally break through. And after last year making it and falling short. And also the entire nation is going to find out more about Paul Maurice and his post-game pressers, who I personally love. And they're going to fall in love with him again. Hey, speaking of small markets, another star is deciding to stay in the small market of the Midwest. Justin Jefferson, the news breaking today, 4 years, $140 million contract, $110 million guaranteed. And this is a real 4-year contract, taking him through his age 28 season. Man, good for him. He inked it. To me, he's the best wide receiver in the NFL. Stay healthy. Let's see if J.J. McCarthy can just get you the ball. If he can be accurate and throw it around you, he'll again be the best player in the league. But what a number, $110 million guaranteed, the highest non-quarterback contract with guaranteed money in NFL history. And this just reset the wide receiver market, like blew it out of the waters completely.
Yeah, this deal, there's a lot of implications here. Obviously, we'll get to it, the other wide receivers that still haven't signed and inked their contracts. But one of the interesting things when I saw this news was like, oh, I didn't really kind of, internalize that Jefferson doesn't really have a quarterback right now. Like every time we see Jefferson, it's like, oh, like Kirk's going to be there throwing in the ball, and the Vikings are going to be in contention. This year, I have a very, very hard time seeing the Vikings win more than 6 or 7 games with whoever it is under center. I expect Sam Darnold's going to win this starting job, and J.J. McCarthy is going to take over when Sam Darnold shows once again that he is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. So I don't see the Vikings being competitive in a division that has 2 great teams that we know of, the Packers and the Lions, and the Bears, who are going to be the upstart of this league with one of the best created offenses through an NFL draft that we've seen in a very, very long time. So obviously, good for Justin Jefferson. He deserved the bag. He deserved everything that he got in this contract. But I am interested to see what his mentality is when we get to midseason. And as I expected, the Vikings aren't winning games. Maybe he's not getting the targets that he wants or the touchdowns that he wants. What's going to happen then? Does he get disillusioned with his time in Minnesota without a good quarterback?
I wouldn't sleep on JJ in the way of he's been running a pro-style offense the last 2 years. He didn't throw it a ton at Michigan. But when you handpick a guy like that and you match up JJ McCarthy with the offensive line, with the 3 receivers he has, and Jordan Addison throwing Hawkinson as well, with the play caller Kevin O'Connell, and with Sam Darnold as a backup, because keep in mind, he comes over from the 49ers, where if Kyle Shanahan wants you on his roster and like save yourselves the jokes of the quarterbacks that he's flubbed on when drafting, maybe it wasn't even his draft pick, but when you want him on your roster, and Sam Darnold, now he's in Minnesota, and he could teach J.J. McCarthy how to be a pro, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the week 1 starter, and I wouldn't be surprised to see J.J. McCarthy get it done. He hasn't done it at Michigan. We haven't seen it, but his skill set, with his accuracy and his arm strength, he is a guy that's a day 1 starter ready to be in the NFL right now, and he's less of a project. And if Darnold does get it, again, with everything that goes around it and the play calling of Kevin O'Connell, this is a team that will capitalize on a rookie scale contract, either with 1 quarterback or a backup contract with Sam Darnold. And what jumped out to me, you look at the numbers, the first 2 years are very team friendly as far as a cap hit goes for Justin Jefferson. So where the Vikings will capitalize on having a rookie under contract at quarterback. So you ink Justin Jefferson, you keep him around. Jordan Addison's in year 2 in the league. You have your tackle set. Get the defense ready. You still have Brian Flores. This, 7-win team, that's where I put him at. But to me, that's the floor because I think this offense can compete with the best of them. But it is amazing because it resets the market. Jamar Chase, CD Lamb, Tyreek Hill could get another big deal again. He beat guaranteed signing by $36 million, the amount of money he got for his guaranteed signing. And he beat all guaranteed money by $26 million, again, to clock in at $110 million. This is just unreal numbers we're seeing for this money. And the wide receiver market is just booming right now. But Justin Jefferson is the best player clearly in the league at the position, and he got in at the right exact time.
Yeah, and when you think about the other wide receivers, this is going to go, by my evaluation, the same way it goes to the quarterback position, which is the next guy's going to get more, then the next guy's going to get more. And we saw that with Jared Goff's contract for the Detroit Lions. Whether it be Chase first and then Lamb, or Lamb first then Chase, that last guy is probably going to get the bigger contract. whether it's AAV or guaranteed money. I do think that the wrinkle here for Tyreek Hill is that he is entering his age 30 season. He's got 5 years on these other guys. So, and he's already in the midst of a contract. I don't know if the numbers are going to be as voluminous as the Jamar Chase contract could be or the Lamb contract could be. Yep. All that being said, though, these guys deserve the payday.
We want to throw up a quick tweet. CD Lamb calling his agent after Justin Jefferson's payday. That's from Pickwise. You see him stealing the phone from his girl that then draft day, but calling him up right away. Get me paid. Another one. The Cowboys realizing how much they have to pay CD. Yeah, Jerry Jones isn't liking it right now. Let me tell you that. And one more. Mike Brown trying to pay Jamar Chase after Jefferson got $110 million guaranteed. Yeah, living in a box. That's how it's going to go. Keep in mind, the Bengals and that ownership group, one of the cheapest in the NFL all around. Right. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in and watching and listening to Boston's End of the Chat. Wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or on Spotify, make sure to tune in then. For George Balekji and Khalin Kapoor, we'll see you guys next time. Have a great rest of your day.